So I come from the Faculty of Engineering, and in everyday speech we call it tech. We have 27 different engineering programs. We have about 4,000 students and 590 employees, of which 440 or so are teachers. And the rest are administrative staff, such as myself. We have 5 different faculties at SDU. We have the Faculty of Health, which will be connected to the University Hospital. We have the Faculty of Natural Science. We have the Faculty of Business and Social Sciences, the Faculty of the Humanities, and then me, that's the Faculty of Engineering. So we have 5 different faculties, and their areas of expertise are very different. And even if you go to the different sections of the university, it also looks different. So I brought a picture from the Faculty of the Humanities, which looks like that. This is the Faculty of Engineering. And up here you have the Faculty of Business and Social Sciences. On top of that, we also have what we call the wet faculties and the dry faculties. I'm not sure, I haven't actually had time to check if you say that in English as well. But maybe you have a guess as to why engineering, health, and natural sciences are wet faculties. It's because we actually experiment with stuff. Whereas at the social sciences and the humanities, they, roughly speaking, read a lot of books. So over here we have the faculties with laboratories. Go out and digging and looking at frogs or whatever, whereas over at the social sciences and the humanities, they read books and they study people, but they don't necessarily actually talk to people. I am a linguist, so I was educated in the humanities, so I can say this. Okay. It was mostly actually just to say we are very different. It's a huge place. Historically, the faculties don't necessarily talk to each other a lot. So back in 2021, we switched from one LMS to another, and the one we switched to was itslearning. And the whole university switched at the same time. We started out. So this was like a shared task and a good occasion to come together across our differences, across the faculties. Some teachers do 90% teaching and 10% research. Others do 90% research and 10% teaching. So we have teachers who are really teachers, who this is their main task. This is what they come to work to do. And then we have teachers who come to work to do research, and then every once in a while they go in a classroom and teach something. But of course they are experts on their research, so they're a great resource for the students. As for educational development and e-learning, we have the Center for Teaching and Learning. They are like the central body for educational research at SDU. And then we have people like me who do e-learning at faculty level. Again, because historically the faculties are separate entities. So even though we have one center for teaching and learning, they don't necessarily know what goes on. A lot of them come from dry faculties. They do actually have a couple, they have a consultant from biology as well. But it's just to say, sometimes it can feel like they are quite far away from what actually goes on in the classrooms. So that's why we have consultants for each faculty as well. And of course there needs to be cooperation between the two also. So the e-learning network. We used that a lot when we implemented itslearning. We met, during the implementation, we met several times a week to discuss the differences in faculties, the differences in teachers, how do we need a virtual classroom to look in order to accommodate all these different ways of teaching and learning. Currently, we meet for 1 hour every 2 weeks to discuss itslearning, but also to discuss educational development or e-learning as a whole. So you could say that it was itslearning that brought us together, But it also brings up discussions of like strategic discussions. Where are we going with this? Because one thing is to have an LMS, but another thing is to say, so how do we want to use it? What are we aiming for? At SDU, we have a principle, an underlying principle for activating teaching and learning. So we want the students to be ideally as active as the teachers in the classrooms. So what does that require online? How do we get the students to actually participate? Even though we are so different, this is a shared challenge. This brings us together. And this is what we meet for 1 hour every 2 weeks, so it's not a lot. But these are the meetings, they are always fully booked. We have so much to talk about, and it really brings us together. We have also, the Center for Teaching and Learning is there, and the faculties, but actually the library is also there because they have a presence within our LMS as well. The library is shared by all students and relevant to all students. And then we invite special guests. So just as the studio you saw here today, we have a similar one at SDU. So we would invite the people responsible for that to our meeting so they can tell us, well, how could you use this? How would this make sense for your faculty? And we can give them feedback. So this is an overall initiative or an organizational body that makes sure that we talk to each other. And if one faculty finds a great solution to something, then the others will hear it too. Sustainable Development Goals. When they came, how many years ago is that? Was it in 2017 maybe? SDU decided that it would be a fundamental part of what we do at the university. So, well, you can read it here. SDU wishes to work with all of the 17 SDGs based on free, independent, and critical research in education. It will characterize the entire university in relation to research, teaching, administration, and external collaboration. So that's a pretty big goal. So how do you do that? Well, we had to bring everyone together. And first of all of the programs were asked to integrate the Sustainable Development Goals into one or more courses. And that was fairly easy because only the program itself had to agree on it. But it was also decided that there would be one SDG course for all 20-something thousand students across SDU. And that this would be anchored in the LMS, because that is the one system that all students have access to, and they're already in there doing their courses, getting their course materials, participating in discussion boards, handing in assignments. And since they're already there, it made sense to say, well, we'll set up a course and we'll push it to all 20,000 students. So the course was developed by the Center for Teaching and Learning, but it was decided that the course would be anchored in the faculties. Again, to make sure that it actually made sense to the teachers and students that they were doing this, we decided to anchor it in the faculties. Now, furthermore, at the Faculty of Engineering, we decided that this wouldn't just be one course, that the students would go and they would take it and they would go back to their program. We put it into other courses. So we found 20-something different first-year courses, and we said, well, you have to incorporate this module. So even though it's the same across the whole university, this one module, because of the way the LMS works, we could push it into courses. So the teachers in those courses would be able to see the module and help students understand it. Right, so it's an integrated part. So the Center for Teaching and Learning developed it, but the teacher is the person who talks to the students about how to apply it. And that was what we wanted, because one thing is reading texts and understanding them, watching videos. You can do great things with self-paced courses, but we wanted the students to get a sense of, so how would the SDGs work in terms of my program? Why does this make sense to me? And not just have this one-size-fits-all and just say, well, 20,000 students within one course, and go. We could have done that too. the LMS supports it. We have it for the library. But for the SDGs, we wanted students to be able to apply their knowledge. And the best people to help them do that are their teachers. I'll just talk a little bit about our Study Start course. So the Study Start course also stems from a shared challenge across the university. At the Faculty of Engineering, we get about 800 new students every year in September. They show up, and up until 2 years ago, we had these huge information meetings where one person would be standing, the dean would come and say welcome, and all the students would be in one room, and they were actually really nice meetings. But then the students would spend 5 or 6 hours listening to factual information. So welcome, you're now at the university. You have a program, you have an email, there are this number of rooms, and you are expected, of course, to read at home and be prepared for all of these things. And the students would sit there and listen. And after that day was done, they would forget anywhere between half of it and all of it. And also, they wouldn't have been active. It's not necessarily a very nice experience to sit there for 6 hours and just take in information. But it was vital for us that they received the information. So what we did was, well, to be fair, originally the Study Start course was developed by a dry faculty. The Faculty of the Humanities did it first. Oh well. But we stole their stuff. Or rather, we talked to them and said, we've heard you're doing this. Sounds great. Can we see what you did? And of course we could. And then we made our own. So what happens now is the students get the email that they've been accepted at the university, and they get that around August 2nd, or at least that's when they confirm it, that they have their place at the university. And the next day, they get access to an online course. I will show it to you in a second. And the online course replaces those 6 hours. So we made a number of videos with students talking about, so what's it like to be a university student? What advice do they have for new students? We have the teachers talking, we have the dean talking, and we have little articles talking about, so this is a new life for you. You are now 18 or 19 or 20 years old, and you're starting a new chapter. What do you need to know? And they have a month to do this, and then they arrive on campus. And they know all this stuff. They've been able to access it in their own time. Some of them log in 12 o'clock on the 3rd of August, and they do everything. And some of them wait until the very last moment, until the deadline, and then they do everything. And then we have all the ones in between. But a lot of them, about 60%, complete this within the first 2 weeks. Because, I mean, it's August, it's their summer holidays. So some of them are maybe traveling, but some of them have just been waiting to become university students. And they really want to get started. And they have the time for it. They have a whole month for these 6 hours of information. So it works really nicely. We've set up discussion boards as well, where they can meet each other and they can chat. So rather than showing up on the 1st of September and looking around at 799 other young people and maybe feeling a little bit lost, they actually meet their fellow students ahead of time. This is something that the students do on their own. We have set up the contents. So there is a final test. It's not very difficult, but it's just to see that they've actually done it. They've actually been through the resources. We also wanted them to talk to each other. So for the second module, we asked them to post something and talk to each other about, well, to meet and inspire their fellow students. Which courses are you looking forward to and why? And you can see here they are then talking to each other. So this is a way for them to meet their fellow students through a very small task. But at least when they show up on the 1st of September, they will know some names and just a little bit about them. Well, this is for one program. So we have one of these courses for each program.
Okay.
So about 20 something. And then there is a similar course for the civil engineers and one for...
But it's the same course for all of them.
It's the same content,
yeah.
Different rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah. They give very, very positive evaluations. We have a scale from 1 to 5, and they evaluate if they find it relevant, the information for each module, if it makes them feel safer in their study start, and a couple of other things, and everything is 4 or higher. They really do enjoy it. And they've enjoyed it so much. We've now made a module for master students as they start in their master's studies as well. Even though the students are in different rooms, they get the same content. So rather than getting all 800 of them together in one room, they're in smaller rooms, they get to know each other, they can see, well, this is ours, this is for our program, and they still get all the content that we want them to have on their own time. Well, it's quite interesting because we looked at what the Faculty of the Humanities have, and they have quite a lot of text. They have many different articles. And then we looked at our students, and we talked to teachers and students, and they responded much better to video. So we have quite a few videos for each course, maybe 2 or 3, and then 2 texts usually, like module texts, no more than a couple of pages. So I would say video, and then some interactive element or something that activates them. So an interactive element doesn't necessarily have to be a discussion board. It could also just be telling them, well, now go do this. And then, of course, you have to trust that they actually do it. But if the task makes sense, they will do it. But for us, the interactive or the activating elements were quite important. Also because since it's the same content for every program, we wanted them to get that sense that they are part of a program too. So a lot of the activating or interactive elements are directed towards, well, this is the program that you're going to be in. So we ask them to search for information specific to their program. And that's the way we sort of incorporated it and made it more individually relevant. Yeah. Yeah. When the teachers use it the way it was intended, it works so well for the students. Yeah. And I think from my experience, that is what itslearning does that I don't see in too many other LMSs. But we did need to, we scaffolded the teachers. I know Mads is giving a presentation on what VIA did later, and I think it was much the same for us. We made video guides, and we set goals. Well, what is most important to us? Yeah. So we were not very ambitious, I would say, from an educational development point of view. We were very focused. So we want the teachers to use plans. Because when they use plans, the materials go into the student's calendar, and well, at the time it was a hypothesis, now we know that's where the students go to access their materials quite often. So that was our main goal, and that is what we told all the teachers. You must use plans. And most of them heard it.